a lot of us carry, that intimacy should just come naturally. That if it doesn't, something must be wrong with us or our bodies or our relationships, right? But what if I tell you that intimacy isn't at all any kind of mystery? What if it's functional, learnable, and deeply connected to how safe and regulated we feel in our everyday lives? Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, the space where we talk about mental health in a way that's practical, human, grounded in real life and real scenario. I'm Sayan, as some of you would know, and today's conversation is the one I think many people need, but rarely, right, hear framed this way. I'm joined by Asal Sepassi, an occupational therapist and sex educator who brings a trauma informed, neuroscience based, and deeply practical approach to intimacy and sexual health. Today, we're talking about sexual health not as performance or pressure, but as something shaped by our nervous system, our sensory needs, and the realities of adult life. So, I invite you all to join me on this broad conversation about intimacy in general. And if intimacy for you has ever felt confusing or overwhelming, this episode for sure is for you. So, welcome to the show, Asal. It's a pleasure to have you, among us today. And I'm excited to see what this conversation heads to.
Thank you so much. I think you covered all of it in the intro. That's amazing.
Thank you, Asal. But I think there's still a lot, still a lot. I mean, yeah, definitely
Sure.
kind of just touch base upon a few dots, but now I think it's your turn to connect those dots. So I'm curious as to what usually brings people to you. What's happening in their lives, all right, or relationships when they realize that they need support around intimacy and that they just can't take it. They just can't debunk what's going on. So what's your take on that?
So, thank you for the question. So, I have a couple of different paths that bring people to me. One is people who are in relationships, and the beginning was all the adrenaline, all the intimacy, everything seemed natural. But as they get used to their partner and kind of slip into their own lives, then their bodies start to almost rebel against them. And while they want the intimacy and the sexual closeness with their partner, it seems like their body can't respond the way they want. And the other, a lot of times, oddly enough, is people who are just trying to make a connection with someone and trying to understand how to do that, and maybe they have some fears and anxieties about their own bodies and how they'll respond, and how to approach that with someone else, and how to make it better.
Okay, okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So have you seen any kind of patterns in these two categories, right? So the first one being, already couples who have been staying with each other for some time, knowing each other for some time. Are there any patterns that you notice in that regards?
Well, physically, I think one of the biggest patterns is that when sex is not working with your body, you
Mhm.
get anxious and try to force yourself to do it. But because our body, the way our nervous systems work, our bodies uh, resp- become sexual with the opposite system that becomes angry. So whereas the sympathetic system, the adrenaline system is the one that makes you angry and like, I have to fix this. In order to get your body to do what you want, you have to relax. So the pattern is angry people who need to relax, or anxious people who need to relax. And learning how to work with their bodies to do that. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why we're having this conversation. So I think
yeah,
one of the biggest myths around sexual health in general is that desire and connection should just appear,
yeah.
right, if the relationship is right. But I'm curious as to how does that belief actually get in the way of intimacy? What's your
I
take
think
on that?
um I mean, it's sure, that's how it works when maybe when you first meet somebody, when you're so excited, but when it comes to daily life, getting through the world, a lot of times it doesn't come I mean, naturally is a loaded word, but it requires some planning. And I even encourage people to go ahead and schedule sex if they need to, or intimacy, which goes against that idea of like it should happen organically. But it works that way as well. And if you make time and invite yourself to it, you're gonna have a higher chance of it working out.
Yeah, I think you framed that perfectly. And what I'm hearing is that I think the misunderstanding that we expect intimacy to be spontaneous, right? I think you're pointing to it that you think that the design or the expectation itself is flawed, right? And I think we don't offer it the same care or structure that we give other parts of life, and that I think mismatch creates a lot of shame within ourselves. So if we stay that for a moment, Ankal, from an OT and nervous system perspective, what's really happening underneath when intimacy feels hard or,
Uh,
I mean, inaccessible in a way?
yeah. So let me just add one point to that, that very little of our lives are spontaneous at this point. So to expect this one section to be particularly spontaneous seems um a little goofy, honestly, a little silly. So I from the nervous system point, and from the OT point, what happens is that when we become aroused, our parasympathetic systems are taking a little bit of a break, and our parasympathetic systems are turning on. So the parasympathetic we call the rest and digest.
Hmm.
And then when we come, that's a sympathetic system, which is our fight or flight. In fact, in some circles, we say fight, flight, or fuck. Or sorry, I don't actually know what kind of wordage you're okay with or yours are okay
That's
with.
totally fine. Yeah.
Um, so for example, if someone's having erectile difficulties, a lot of times the stress just keeps building up and you're focused on it. And one partner is trying to get the other partner to get aroused, and that partner is starting to freak out because, oh my God, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to doing physically. But really the best way to deal with that is to take a step back, to relax, to maybe chat a little bit or watch a movie or the Netflix and chill. The chill part is an important aspect of sex, and I think we forget that because we also watch a lot, and the Netflix is a problem because we're
Yeah.
watching movies where everything's happening so quick and so amazing, and that's just not the way real life goes oftentimes. So as the two systems together, they compete for your body resources. So in order to be able to rest, you can't be running. Does that make sense? I don't know if I
Yeah, that does.
yeah.
That does. Like you said, right? I mean, Netflix is definitely in that context a problem. But if I have to, I would say, uh, you know, be more elaborative in a way that media in general, I think it has distorted our understanding of what sex is, and obviously there are things like pornography or movies in general, that shows how sex is supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
So amidst all of that, Isal, if I may ask you, what's what's the mindset, right? I mean, how do we bypass these catalysts in our everyday day life so that we can sort of stay away from the influences. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way I can put it is that you need to stay in your own brain a little bit. Not the anxiety part, but so you're with a partner. What is it about that partner that turns you on? Is it their body? I mean, hopefully it's their body somewhat. So what part of their body? So rather than thinking about what your performance should be, who you are in that moment, you should be focused on what it is that you like about the moment. Not, stay in the present, I suppose. It's a little bit of a cliche, but sexually, it works quite well to just think about, who you are and what you want your partner to feel. I think that's an important aspect rather than what your partner thinks about you, how you can get
Yeah.
them to feel. Um, and let me tell you, most partners are pretty understanding and pretty loving. And they're there because they like you. So so what you want to do is tap into that and not convince them that this is a stressful situation, but to kind of take a minute. I can't emphasize enough how less Netflix, more chill is the message for today's.
Yeah. Deep. And I think that reframe is very, very important of how you shift that perspective of from you, right, of what the other person is thinking about you to, what you want the other person to feel. I think that's an important, I felt like iteration that I would do for the listeners listening to this right now, because I think we oftentimes, make it about ourselves,
Yeah.
and it's a common, I don't know how the science work, biologically speaking, but I think, we are always, I would say, influenced in a way that, we are only thinking about ourselves. Now, I'm not really saying that everyone's a narcissist in a way, but what I'm also saying is that, we have just made the environment around us, we call it social media, you call it real life, that, we are only focused about how we want others to feel about us, right? It's that
How
validation
we are seen.
aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the way you reframe that really does makes a lot more sense right now.
Yeah.
So for someone listening to this right now, and if I have to be more practical about it,
Okay.
uh, you know, someone listening to this right now, and okay, who goes like, right, this is starting to make a little bit of sense, okay, but how do I do it? The how aspect of it. So we talked about what, we talked about why, but the how aspect of it is what I would say is the most trickiest thing. So where do you usually suggest this start?
So I mean, it almost sounds cheesy, but you gotta figure out what calms you down in life. So for some people it's meditation, some people it's deep
Hmm.
breaths. Um, and then you use that to calm whatever's freaking you out. So let's say I have people with or patients with sensory issues. So their touch, they don't like that feeling of touch. It throws them off. Um, so now you have to let yourself focus on the calming thing and go in with a calm mindset. So if you are someone with premature ejaculation, go ahead and ejaculate before you go on your date. Get it out of your system, relax yourself, take the thing that is freaking you out of the picture and bring in the calming, relaxing thing and then move on with your life. And then go in regulated, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It yeah. It is a little bit of a broad question because I think we're talking a lot about the psychological or emotional aspects, but there are people who need the physical, which is why they come to occupational therapy. So tight muscles, being able to figure out what those are. But in order to start looking at yourself honestly about your physical, you got to get out of your head the performative aspect that we just spoke about. So another exercise, um, I feel like none of this, like it all just sounds a little cheesy, is to just think about what it is about you that makes you attractive.
Hmm.
Why are you attractive, in general or to this person? What is it that you like about yourself? Um, and why would they be there? Like, why is that person there? Even if they're there for money, they're there for a reason. They want to work with you, right? Or they're there because they like how you laugh. But that part is already taken care of, so you need to move on past that part and think about what's going on next. Um, and then from if you're analytical at all, this is a part to start thinking about. Is it the second you see your partner that you start hyperventilating and being stressed out? Is it when they touch you that it's stressing out? Is it when you're being expected to orgasm or you're expecting yourself to orgasm? Um, so I mean, that's what I should. So that's really your very first step is to take a strong look at yourself and figure out what's going on because
Hmm.
it's not this magical theory. I mean, again, Netflix will tell you it's this magical ethereal and that your body will just take over and you can start. But let's say you were having problems with food. So you're gonna think about, is it the cooking that's throwing me off? Is it the eating? Is it the taste? Um, so the how is to first think about which part of the whole equation is bothering you, which is very analytical and not very fun and not movie worthy at all. But it's how you get through it.
Essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's essential, and I love how you frame that again. It's grounded. I mean, it's less about fixing and more about understanding, and more importantly, understanding yourself, right? And
Yeah.
then working with the body instead of against it. So I
And
think, I think,
forgiving your body.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's about not making everything about your body, right? And like you said, it's the analytical part that most of us would say or argue that it's not fun, which maybe it's not that fun, but it's absolutely essential, right, to understand what is that's stressing you out, like you said, as well. So I think that's the perhaps the best note to wrap this up on. So for listeners who are listening to this right now, who wants to connect with you or learn more about your work, or I mean continue this conversation, where can they find you at, Asal?
So there's a website called Instagram. I'm under Unshamed OT, because really the shame is the issue here. And I would be happy to respond to any DMs or just have you all in my life. And thank you so much.
Perfect. Perfect. I'll include the link in the show notes for everyone who can find you easily on Instagram. And with that, folks, I just want you to remember that sexual health isn't about forcing desire, right? It's not the kind of thing that you watch on Netflix or anywhere in media in general, because you have to know what's that blurry line between something that's not real versus something that's real. I think it's about creating safety, regulation, and understanding, so connection can actually become possible and real. So I just want you to sit with that thought for maybe a few minutes after we're done with this conversation. And with that, uh, I just want to thank you all for being part of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life today. And if this conversation resonated with you, like I always do say, take a moment to reflect on how your body shapes your relationships, because I don't think intimacy needs to be very mysterious or spontaneous. I think it can be supportive, human, and deeply doable. And just sit with the thought, perhaps, that we talked about throughout this conversation. Maybe there was a part of it that resonated with you. And while you do that, it's time for us to say you bye, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.